Hey, what's up folks? How's it going? This is Waj. Hope you guys are all doing well. And in this video, we're going to be talking about camera stabilization gimbals, specifically for your DSLR or mirrorless camera. What we have over here is the Viewflex TARZAN M. It's an active 3-axis gimbal, and it comes at a pretty significantly lower price tag than a lot of other active stabilization 3-axis gimbals that you're going to find from many of the big reputable companies. Now, what we want to find out is there any compromise with a budget-oriented gimbal that you're going to find online on Amazon or anywhere else? So let's actually take a look at this one specifically, see what the pros and cons are, and see if it's going to be ultimately right for you. Now, firstly, let's start with the overall build quality of the Viewflex TARZAN M. I would have to say that generally speaking, it's definitely not too bad. Mostly metal construction. There's some plastic overall buttons, but nothing to really overall complain about. It feels very sturdy. All the adjustment arms for the gimbal are very nicely laid out. It can actually support up to 2,500 grams or 2.5 kilograms and about 5 pounds. I have it loaded with a full DSLR camera. It's the old 60D and a 50mm lens. Probably not the best configuration out there, but just to give you guys an example, because I'm filming with my Panasonic G7, and that's primarily the camera that I use to do all my test footage with. Now, generally speaking, we have it disabled right now, but when you set up any kind of gimbal system, you actually want to have a natural state of balance. So when you do turn it on, everything is nice and stable, and we can actually turn it on right now. And boom, there is your stabilization system ready to rock and roll. Now, you can also calibrate the system on a level surface to make sure everything is in line in a single plane. And there's a couple of different follow modes that we'll also go over as well. Now, the gimbal itself is comprised of 3 brushless motors that controls for both pitch, yaw, and roll. And the operation of these motors are pretty much near silent, so it's perfect for really any kind of filming environment. I'm actually filming it with it right now, and you can probably not hear a thing. Now, in terms of controls, you have a single power button, a 4-way joystick controller, as well as a set or function button that's going to switch between different modes and different functionalities. You also have a zoom dial over here, which is going to actually be compatible with only certain type of Sony cameras, which is going to control for things like focus and taking photos, and even zooming in and out if you have a powered lens for that. I haven't tested that because I don't have a Sony camera that works with this thing at this point. Now, this gimbal is actually powered by 2 206650 batteries, which gives it a capacity of about 4,000 milliamp hours, and it's actually rated for about 10 hours of straight usage, but in realistic terms, you're going to get anywhere between 4.5 to around 6 hours based on my experience, which is pretty much fine for most shoots that are going to typically last a couple of hours. Now, in terms of the setup process, it's actually relatively simple. There's a 1/4-inch mount at the bottom of the base plate, and there's a free screw that you just can screw your camera directly onto the base plate, or you can have even a quick release system if you want to have easy access to your camera. Now, as we mentioned before, to get the best results, you want to make sure you have a natural state of balance before even turning on the gimbal. So make sure your arms are adjusted accordingly, and you want to make sure that your camera is nicely tightly fastened onto the base plate, or else you're going to get some pretty ugly looking footage like you're seeing over here. Now, you can operate the gimbal in a couple of different ways, 4 modes specifically. If you tap the set button about 4 times, you're going to enter into 360 mode, which you're seeing right over here, which the camera is just going to rotate 360 degrees and give you that video footage, and it's going to basically stabilize if there's any changes. This is great if you're going to mount it on a tripod or something like that. If you double tap the set button, you're going to enter into the different modes, which is the fully locked mode, which you're seeing over here. That means that whatever I do, whether I go forward, backwards, side to side, the camera is basically going to be fixated on a single point, and it's going to be level to the ground. If you put it in the half follow mode, essentially what it's going to do is keep the plane level with the ground itself, but you can turn the operation of the camera with the handle, and it will follow along with that. One thing important to note is if you do turn the handle quicker, the gimbal does a quicker movement. If you're more slower with your movements, it's going to adjust accordingly. Unfortunately, there's no hard and set way to kind of control the speed and responsiveness of that gimbal. It's pretty much following the operation of the handle. Now, if you put it into full follow mode, now what we're going to do is if we change the angle of the gimbal handle itself, it's going to follow accordingly as you're seeing over here. And of course, it's going to turn with the handle. So this is great for a full follow mode setup where you don't need to be level to the ground all the time. You can certainly use these modes in a couple of different ways depending upon what kind of shot you're going for. So that's pretty versatile, and they work pretty well more or less. Now, in terms of the performance that you're going to get with Tarzan M, as you're looking at some of the footage over here, you can see that it's relatively smooth and consistent. There's definitely some skill involved with the operator moving as smoothly and as fluidly as possible. And once you get a little bit more practice in moving more smoothly and efficiently, you're going to notice that your footage looks better and better. So there's definitely some skill involved even with a system like this. That being said, I would have to overall say that the footage is certainly not earth-shattering. In most cases, this is just a tiny step up of what you're going to get with a smartphone stabilization gimbal, something like the Osmo Mobile that we tested out from DJI a couple of years ago. You can get some pretty similar looking results, especially if you're looking at more of a wide angle perspective based shot. You're not going to see a huge difference between a system like this and a mobile system. And in fact, in a lot of cases, I think the setup process and the overall ease of use on the mobile platform is certainly more accessible and can certainly be passable depending upon what kind of project you're working on. And now certainly if you're more looking into that cinematic look with shallow depth of field and different lens selections, this will definitely give you more of that versatility and give you a little bit more of a professional edge. But again, you're not going to get earth-shattering results, and it's still not going to compete with some of the higher end gimbal systems that you're going to find out there from more established based companies. But factoring in the price tag, there's nothing really to complain about, and certainly with a little bit more practice, I'm sure you can pull off some pretty impressive looking footage. Now, one accessory that may help you achieve more smoother looking shots is that double handle attachment for the Tarzan M. I'll have a link to that attachment in the description down below. You can also buy another remote. Certainly with the double handle attachment, you're going to get a little bit more of a rock solid basis for the operator, and it's probably going to result in smoother looking footage. And with the extra remote control, you can remotely control the gimbal movements, which is going to be a little bit more ideal if you're maybe using the system on a motorized dolly or on a jib or something like that. So by the way, there is a 1/4 inch attachment at the bottom of the handle, so you can definitely attach this to a whole bunch of different camera rig and configurations, which is pretty cool. But really, besides that, I would say that the Tarzan M is certainly definitely looking into if you're on a particular budget, and sometimes even the rental costs of some of these more expensive stabilization gimbals could certainly even outweigh the cost of the entire unit itself. So something definitely to consider. If you have any specific questions, let me know. Check out the description down below for all the links and details about everything we talked about. Thanks for your support. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later. Take care.